When the evacuation is complete, you're ready to add refrigerant. Equipment that John is using here includes the tank of refrigerant and hoses, a refrigerant scale, and a refrigerant leak detector. This outdoor unit comes pre-charged with enough refrigerant for shorter line set runs. Check the manufacturer literature for how long a line set can be with this pre-charge amount, and if your line set is longer than this, follow instructions for calculating how much refrigerant you need to add. For multi-zone systems, there are more factors to check. The length of each run, diameter, number of heads, and capacity of heads can all affect these calculations. All these equations are in the manuals, but it might be easier to use the manufacturer's software to figure out the right charge for multi-zone systems. If you do need to add refrigerant, it's got to be weighed in. Set up the refrigerant scale on a level surface close to the outdoor unit. Wear gloves and safety glasses to protect against refrigerant burns.
This system allows for 25 feet of line set without adding any additional refrigerant, just using what comes shipped in the unit. We have 33 feet of line set, so we did a calculation and we determined that we need to add 1.7 ounces of refrigerant. I'm using R410A in this system, which is a blend. Because the two components have different boiling points, we need to add refrigerant in the liquid phase, which means that we need to charge with the tank upside down. I've connected hose through my gauge manifold and over to the access port. I still have my core removal tool connected. My core is still out. We'll be putting that in a little bit. And I've purged the air from these lines, bleeding a teeny bit of liquid refrigerant out at each of the fittings until we get to the core removal tool. At this point, the gauge manifold is open, and I'm going to use the isolation valve on the core removal tool to allow refrigerant to flow into the system.
For a simple single-zone system like this one, John is adding refrigerant before starting it up. But for some larger multi-zone systems, there might be times when you need to add refrigerant while the system is running. Zero the scale, then slowly, very slowly open the valve to allow refrigerant into the system. When you reach the target weight, close the valve. If you didn't add any refrigerant, or if you added a very small amount, like we did here, open the service valve to allow some of the pre-charge refrigerant into the system. Getting the system refrigerant pressure above atmospheric pressure can eliminate the risk of sucking air into the system. Close the valves, close the tank, and disconnect the hoses. To replace the Schrader core, make sure the core is seated pretty firmly in the plunger.
Because we dropped the core that we originally pulled out of here and might have gotten some contamination on it, I'm going to be using a fresh core. Use the isolation valve to bleed a little bit of refrigerant to purge out any air that's in that chamber. Now I can tighten it down. Open my isolation valve. And now, working against the pressure that's in the system, I'm going to be inserting my core. Now, if that core is seated properly, when I open this, you're going to hear a little puff of refrigerant and then nothing. Good. So now I can take off my core removal tool. And now I'm going to open my service valves all the way. Again, you don't want to over open these. You want to stop when you reach that stopping point.
Use a refrigerant leak detector to check the Schrader valve, service valves, and any flares. Parts like the Schrader valve couldn't be checked with the other leak detection methods we used, so it's important to check these now. Replace any pipe insulation that you may have moved out of the way during charging. Replace the caps on the service ports. Record details of the refrigerant charge. You should already have line set lengths in your paperwork, but also record how much refrigerant you added and the total charge in the system. Also write this info on the cover of the outdoor unit access panel. If you did not add any refrigerant, record that also.